Hey, it's Lee. Welcome to Business Problem Solved. Today we're back on the on the trail of amazing guests. You've probably been bored of my voice for quite some time. So today, with great pleasure, to introduce Mr. Matt Grady. How the devil are you?
Wonderful, thanks, Lee. Yeah, really great to be here. Thank you so much.
No, honestly, thank you.
Post some IT issues my end, so
Yeah.
my apologies.
Well, no, don't you worry about that.
Been a
We're
good chat.
talking now. That's the important thing. We are. But
Good.
for those people who don't know who Matt Grady is, who is he?
Yeah.
And how has he got to sit in that seat today?
Yeah, wonderful. Absolutely. Well, we're just relocating at the minute, so it's a bit of a bare background. Not much going on here. But I mean, to give you a bit of a potted history as well. Northerner, originally from Leeds. We're born in Leeds, moved out, grew up in Castleford, West Yorkshire. Always had aspirations to be a professional sports person, in particular golf. I guess like most lads, wanted to be a football pro and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But found I was pretty good at golf and pursued it as a career. And when I turned 18, I joined the PGA and I moved south when I was 19 down to the Oxfordshire area, sort of home counties. Met my other half there 20 years ago as well. We're still together with our daughter Leah here. And turned pro, qualified, got sponsorship to play on the tour, moved overseas, did a sort of interim post in the UAE in Dubai and moved north to Ras Al Khaimah, one of the Northern Emirates, to set up a golf club out there that was just about to, it's kind of half built. And then at the time in 2007, when I was out there, it's financial crash. It was wasn't as booming as it is now. There's only about 10 golf courses at the time. Set up the golf course, came back into golf, and then started to think about career and life outside of golf, because it's all consuming, all hours. Even the golf courses overseas are floodlit, so you're never switching off. And realized if I was ever going to set up a family and have some family time, I needed to take a bit of a sidestep out of golf. And one thing led to another, and I found myself in kind of a sales role in the recruitment industry. Did well at it. 11 years later, still doing it, but just progressed over the ranks through to C-suite executive search over the last few years. So now work internationally with biotech, pharmaceutical and medical device technology businesses in Europe. And I help the founders and C-suite solve sort of leadership challenges through talent, really. And this year, met a good friend who's a good friend now, has been a sort of virtual mentor over the years, a chap called JP de Villiers, who is a high performance coach. He used to work with Tony Robbins. He works with a number of CEOs and leaders now. And he said, Matt, you've got a crazy story. It's very similar to my own. I think you should write a book. And he set me the challenge to write a book within 30 days. And I promised I would. So,
wow.
So we got the book out, and JP very kindly wrote the foreword, and it's called Making the Cut: Turning Pro in Sport, Business and Life. And it's been my journey through sport, business and life, some of the lessons learned from top level sports and what I've implemented into life. And this year, I said it was potted, but I'm going on a bit maybe. This year, I've really put a push on getting myself out of my own comfort zone by recording my own podcast and developing my own series, but also wanting to speak to others and be part of other shows as well, such as yours, Lee. And this is where I am today.
Wow. And
bit of a history.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. I guess it's just where to start, because I guess if we start just right at the beginning, actually, around the desire to become a professional sportsman. How was that? How did that happen? What was it inside of you that kept you going and kept you motivated to realize that dream? In fact, did you realize the dream that you wanted to do? Because a lot of people, like you said when you were giving your introduction, a lot of people have aspirations. I've got a 9-year-old aspiring goalkeeper next door.
Yeah.
And fingers crossed, that's my retirement plan. But it's within his gift, isn't it? But what was it that kept you going to actually realize your dream? And did you realize your dream?
Yeah, I think I did in many ways. And actually sort of in the early stages, sort of 10, 11, 12, just moving into high school, I really realized that there was just no way that I wasn't going to achieve my goals of becoming a professional golfer. I loved it so much. I couldn't see life without it. So it was a really, from an early age, really heavily visualizing my future, which might sound a bit mature. And I wasn't really an introvert or that person that's kind of just sat away planning my future, but I just knew it was something that was in me and I could achieve it. And I saw it being achieved as well outside. And I'm 40 now, so I'm before kind of internet and, you know, widely available sport. But I remember that once a year or twice a year, actually watching Augusta in April, watching the Masters in April, and then watching the Open in July. The only two things that were televised, you know, before we had Sky and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I used to record them on video. And I was just so madly in love with the sport and playing sport. I didn't actually love watching sport too much. I was more into playing it. I just had this really burning desire. And then, but I mentioned in the book, there is a bit of a curveball in there. When I was about 15, 16, had a really great role model at school, our sports teacher, Mr. Hall, Simon Hall. And I've kept in touch with him, you know, over 20 years now. I met him for a drink last year as well when I moved back up north. And it was just insane, you know, the impact that he had on my life. And I thought, am I just dreaming here about golf, or is there something else going on? And for 1 minute, I thought, do you know what? Sport, PE, teacher, you know, I was thinking serious about, I could become a sports teacher. It turned out my college didn't do the A level.
Yeah.
So it was back to plan A all the way. It was like golf pro, golf pro, golf pro. Now, I did have one influence. My uncle was a golf pro as well, but he was more of a teaching pro. He spent time overseas in Germany, but having sort of spoke to him throughout my teenage years, I realized how achievable it was if you had the right talent and drive. So I guess back to the question is, I just knew it was going to happen. And I knew it had to happen because my golf was getting better, and academically, I wasn't getting any better.
Yeah.
So I really struggled through my GCSEs. I guess all I was thinking about was sports.
Yeah.
I took A levels because I had nothing else to do. I couldn't get into golf. You know, I'm still too young. I started working at the golf club in Rothwell in Leeds, where I eventually turned pro. But my A levels were getting worse. I had to resit maths because I needed maths to get into the PGA as well. That was the kind of minimum requirements.
Yeah.
But I just knew it was just plan A all the way. And I'd said to so many people, maybe this is early days accountability. I said, I am going to be a golf pro. And there's a lot of naysayers, and my mates said, you're dreaming. You haven't got a clue. They'd never seen me play golf, but they thought, what an idiot. You know, he's an absolute dreamer. Yeah. And I thought, there's absolutely no chance. I was always going to swear there, but I didn't know how clean the podcast was.
You just say whatever you want to say.
Yeah, I thought it's just no way on this planet that I'm not achieving this goal. And I did. And I sometimes think I did it just to prove them wrong as well.
Yeah. I love that. There's so much in what you just said there, because you made me think about it, that having the right network or the peers or the role models to support you. You spoke about having that desire or that vision of where it is that you want to get to, and and you were obviously putting in the effort as well. You said that your golf was getting better, but academically you weren't. So there's a lot of I guess abilities or skills or lessons that you've put in place to achieve your dream. How did it feel when, and I don't know, when you become a PGA professional? I mean, do you get like a sticker? What is it you get?
Yeah. It's not that exciting, to be honest, because as soon as you join the PGA, you've got 3 years of exams to go through. So the PGA is more in my opinion, looking back, it's more the backup plan. If you have your PGA membership, you're qualified to teach, you're registered and accredited as a PGA professional under the banner of the PGA, but it's a bit of a backup plan if you want to be a player. Yeah. Which is what I wanted to be. So you go through 3 years of on-the-job learning, essentially learning club fitting, but the deeper stuff is biomechanics, rules and tournaments, how to run a business, tax returns, club fitting and customization. That's quite a big part of the art, almost the artisan sort of craft of club fitting and club building, and the business of golf as well. And there's many other facets to it, and you get examined on a yearly basis. So it was a bit of a downer for me, having just scraped through A levels, to be going back to school again, you know, putting business plans together and going through the motions, but also showing a playing ability and also the ability to teach to an extremely high standard and to sort of pass on that knowledge. And then after 3 years, you sit your final exams, you either pass or you fail, and you have to go again. And then you're a full member of the Professional Golfers Association.
Wow.
Yeah, so a bit of an anticlimax going back to school, but you're almost on a path then through the PGA to become a qualified member, which opens the door for club life. If you want to be a head pro somewhere, you have to typically be a PGA professional.
Yeah, I guess that's really positive that they look after the people in that way to like you say, a plan B, or to support them with life skills and give them alternative paths to go. When you were,
not everybody's a top player as well. It's worth saying not everybody's going to make the cuts. You know, in terms of making the cuts, it's even harder when you get to that level. But
how did you know that you'd made the cut?
Well, I made the cut in many ways in that I qualified for various tours and I was able to make a living by playing. So I guess it was my passion. And when I realized I made it to my own standards or satisfaction was when I was able to actually make money from it, to gain sponsorship, to play in professional events at a more senior level than just the regional county stuff. Yeah. So more, you know, the serious end of golf, no salary and having to make money from it.
And I guess, so, and how long did you do that for?
That was about 5 years of playing.
Yeah. And
so
what was the reason
3 years
that you stopped?
Qualifying. Say that again. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. What was it? What was the reason? So I'm just thinking in my head now. You've gone in on this massive journey. A kid that wanted to do this, and then you've studied, and then you've got all the qualifications. You've got your plan B and your plan A, and then you're fully in. You're fully in plan A. It's paying for you. It's delivering. And how long? It was 5 years, did you say?
Yeah,
and it stopped.
Roughly, I think one of them is financial. So the ability to repeat either sponsorship or earnings to pay for the year ahead. And I was finding I was getting to an age where I was thinking, hang on a minute, you know, I need to guarantee some income in order to buy a property, for example, or to be set up in a way. And you can't guarantee sponsorship and you can't guarantee whether you're going to win the money.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'd gambled on that for a couple of years. But at some point it was getting to the place where it's like, okay, I'd quite like a mortgage. I'd quite like some stability. And I did have a bit of a hiatus in that I went to live in the UAE with the golf out there. And that was almost like a break from tournament life back into the club life. And when I came back to the UK, I entered the club scene. So worked with some premium golf resorts in the UK. But actually, the love for the club life and the game had just diminished really by that point. And I was starting to pursue other ambitions really and other goals in life.
Yeah. And so you mentioned that you got into recruitment and you did that for 11 years. And I guess
still going,
How did that start? So how did you go from professional golf, working on the club circuit and then doing the stuff that you did in the golf courses and stuff? How did you go from that to then going, actually recruitment is where it's at?
Yeah, well, it wasn't at first, you know, actually, I was looking around and thinking, what am I going to do? You know, what are the options here? And I ended up actually getting a sales role. It was a direct sales role for a bedroom manufacturer called Sharps. You might know them.
Yeah.
So, and at the time, Sharps, well, in fact, had a great time there, really learned some excellent sales skills from the business. And about 9 months in, they went into administration, Sharps, Dolphin, Moban. And we all got put in a room and they said, sorry, Moban, Dolphin, you've got to go home today. Sharps are going to hang on to by dear life. They're still going and I think return to later form. And actually, we've got them coming around in a few weeks to look at some wardrobes. But I wasn't in a position then to gamble my future as well. I just left my career and almost my life in golf to something that was very unstable.
Yeah.
And for the first time ever, sort of looked at a job board and put my CV together. And somebody from Michael Page gave me a call, Jennifer Butchers, I remember fondly. And she said, why don't you come and interview? We love what you've done. You know, it's really interesting. We love sports people, you know, that drive, determination, motivation, all those good things. We've got the training and development plan. Come and meet us. Met them, hit it off, met a few people there and ended up joining the recruitment industry and found it was a it was almost like an evolved sales process, very complex, dealing with humans as the as the ultimate product, and talent as we now know it, or candidates and clients. And it was actually quite challenging and not so easy to just pick up, and you had to become an expert, and it felt like a worthy pursuit, and something that I'm not just going to become an overnight success in, which I really like. And golf, probably took me 14 years to get to the level of what I wanted to be at. And I didn't want to necessarily wait 14 years, but thought within the next year or two, I could see some serious progression here, some excellent stability if I want to start a family, get a mortgage, get on the property ladder and do something with life. Because to be honest, without the right level of sponsorship, you are scrapping around a lot in golf. Yeah. It costs about £40,000 to £50,000 a year just to pay your tournament entries, and
wow.
that's not to mention any rent that you might be paying or your living costs.
Yeah.
So imagine having to sort of think about where that's coming from every year. It's quite a pressure to put on yourself constantly.
No, I can imagine, and I guess I'm sat here. I think, what's the dream, Matt Grady? What is the dream as you sit there now? What's the dream for you?
I think the dream, and everybody probably knows this now that I've spoke to, is in 10 years when I'm 50, I'll be playing golf on the seniors on the Champions Tour, and I'll retire having the time of my life. That'll be my living, but it'll be an absolute dream. So the goal really is to stay in solid physical shape so that I can play in the future. And then I would have done 20 years in the recruitment industry if that's what I continue to do. And it's done me a solid, really. And I really love the industry. I really love the business that I work for and everything I do. But wouldn't it be amazing if I could return to the golf course in the future without having to necessarily worry about the pressures of where's my next paycheck coming from?
Yeah, no, completely. I love that.
So I guess that would be a dream anyway.
And I think when you're talking there, I think I don't have any doubt that's exactly what you'll be doing, because when you spoke about at the start of your career and the ambition, the motivation, the drive, the accountability, the people, the role model next to you, I guess there's a formula for success there, and it sounds like you're repeating that throughout each different phase and stage of your career. And you mentioned about the book earlier on, or hang on a sec, did you say book or book?
Well, I'm Yorkshire, so I'm book. Yeah, so I appreciate Lancashire is
nobody's perfect, Matt. Nobody's perfect.
I understand it. But funny enough, my grandma used to say book, and have a look, but she was from Yorkshire.
Yeah, but a talented lady. I'm fond of
talented that extremely. Yeah.
I mean, and talking of relatives, actually, when you were talking about your career in golf, my nan's uncle, Fred Robson, played in the very first Ryder Cup.
1927.
In 1927, yes, wow. He did.
And the 1929 was held at Moortown Golf Club in Leeds, which is where I ended up playing as a youngster.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, really, really. So, and that's why I remember the year.
Yes, I think he came second in the UK Open in 27 or something like that as well. Wow. And then he was on the very first Ryder Cup tour.
Was it in the US? Was it in the US? Wasn't it?
Yes, I think it was.
They went over on a boat and.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah. That's incredible. No, what a story.
Yeah, no, you sparked those thoughts, and unfortunately, his golf abilities didn't get passed on down this side of the family, unfortunately. But never mind. Yeah. So, you spoke before about your book, Making the Cut.
Yeah. Yes.
And you said you've been challenged to do it in 30 days.
Yes.
Right. I love this because I love this a lot, actually, because I think this is evidence of you as a person. The fact that somebody, and we've only just met, right? And this is only my impression based on the short conversation that we've had. You're somebody who doesn't let anybody down, and the fact that you've signed up to that kind of accountability challenge and the 30 days. Do you think you would have written a book without
that? I would have, but just not as quick.
Yeah,
I was starting to consider it, but I didn't have anything concrete that I was going to write about. And when I spoke to JP and met him and interviewed him on one of my earlier podcasts as well, there's something else that we have in common. When I moved down south and I was trying to, generate income really to play on the circuit, I was a bedroom DJ when I was a teenager, and I mentioned in the book. So I've got a friend. So somebody who worked in the golf club, Shane Dickinson. His uncle was a guy called George Evelyn, DJ Easy. His name is. He was. Do you know Nightmares on Wax? Have you heard of Nightmares on Wax?
Sounds familiar. Yes.
I'll send you a link. Really popular, sort of Ibiza chill, and very famous DJ. Turns out Shane's uncle is that guy. So Shane was very much into hip hop and that sort of stuff. I was more into house music. And anyway, he brought the decks into the golf club one night because Shane was the manager of the bar at the golf club. I was like, wow, I love this. And we love music. And we're in the 90s now as well. So, I think that kind of that house music generation was really coming through. And I loved it. So I bought some decks and I started DJing at home and collecting records. And I once went into a shop in Leeds and was buying records. And the guy said, do you like this sort of music then? I said, yeah. He said, what are you doing with it? I said, just bedroom DJ and do a few mixtapes for my friends. And he said, do as a mixtape, bring it in next week. I was like, right, did it. And I didn't realize what was happening here. There's some sort of transaction going on. He said, right, I listened to it. The next time I said, I've listened to it. I like it. It's a bit commercial. If you can play some more of this, I'll give you a spot on a Thursday night at Elbow Rooms in Leeds.
Amazing.
And just do an hour. Anyway, we piled in. It was like the Romans. Everybody that I knew was coming in my Ford Fiesta. There's about 5 of us in it for that night. And that was my passion, or that was my passion outside of work. And I turned out making some money from it. When I moved down south, I got offered the opportunity to DJ in the Slug and Lettuce. I found the GM of the Slug and Lettuce was from Manchester. So we had this northern connection. We're both in the south. He said, I'm looking for some live music. So have you got any ideas? I said, well, I'll bring my decks. I've brought my decks down. I'll do a set. I did a set. He said, you can do this every Friday and Saturday night. So I did that for 5 years.
Wow.
And that sort of supplemented my golf really and kind of got me by.
Yeah,
paid for a few holidays as well. So, but JP was also a DJ as well. So he's in sport. He's a professional kickboxer. I was a professional golfer. He was a DJ. I was a DJ. We're a similar age. He also got into sales as well. And then he moved into coaching. And obviously I went a different way into the recruitment industry. He said, you people out there would love to hear your story, Matt. And it's going to be a great tool for you to have a conversation with people that you'd never thought that you could. And he said, you've got to, don't be a perfectionist. Here's a structure. And he did a live video actually. And I put my name, I said, I am going to write a book and it will be complete by this day.
Yeah. Love it.
I didn't want to let JP down really. And he's become a really great friend.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. And
I try not to let people down. Absolutely. Yes. But I do, if I say I'm going to do it, it gets done.
Yeah, no, completely. So, I used to DJ as well. I DJ'd in Bolton, Yates's. I did it 18 months dressed as a monkey. But that's another story for a completely other time.
Next podcast, the music.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess, how would you describe your career to date in 3 words?
Oof. Big learning curves.
Yeah.
Steep learning curves.
Yeah. What's the biggest lesson that you've learned?
Biggest lesson, and this has come off quick as well. I don't want it to sound canned or anything because I'm writing my intentions and values down on a daily basis now. I've only got 5, and I learned this from JP. I guess I've always had certain values, but I never write them down on a daily basis. But now I do, and it is challenge. And that's the biggest lesson that I've learned is the more adversity and the more challenge I can engineer into everything I do, the greater results that I have. So the more awkward the conversation, the more out of the comfort zone I can get, the more volume of something I can do, the more out of the box thinking I can make. And as challenging as it might be, that's where the results are. Yes,
completely. What do you think your biggest challenge coming up will be?
I think, the industry that I'm in, I think there's probably a couple of things, one on where I want to take things, and 2, how I'm going to get there. in business as well. So I'm employed. I work in a business now. I run the executive search practice, as it's called. So I'm the executive search guy. You're trying to do everything, not myself, because I have a lot of support from the business, but at the moment, the biggest challenge is, give me a broom and I'll clean out the store at the same time. I'm very much a one-man band in a bigger organization, competing in a very challenging industry, challenging sector, with a lot of competition. So I'm doing hopefully what others won't do today, and I'm nicking someone's quote here so that I can get the results that they won't have tomorrow. So I'm really putting myself out there. So the biggest challenge is doing the right things, really, and enough of it, and increasing the quality as I go, and increasing the output.
How do you know what the right things are?
I don't always know, actually, and a lot of it is testing. So one thing, I was doing an audio podcast, interviewing, sending my guests the link, very early days. Didn't really go down very well, although there were great conversations. I realized that video was where I needed to move things. So I had to go out of a comfort zone there and start asking people that I wanted to meet, who were willing to give me a shot at joining my podcast. But I had to do extremely high volumes of outreach for that as well. And then testing the format, and then tweaking the style. And I guess there's everything I do really is constantly tweaking, whether it's the pitch, whether it's the solution, whether it's the service, and asking a lot of questions of the people that I'm speaking to. Did that resonate? Am I on the right tracks here? What would you change? So I guess I know some things that have worked really well, and I'm trying to tweak them to get greater results over time. But a lot of the time, it's an A/B test every time.
Yeah, love it. What 3 words did you say your daughter's called Leah?
Leah, yeah.
What 3 words, or how would she describe you with 3 words, do you think?
And this is so weirdly, and it's so crazy that you said that. We were, because we're not from this area, and we're always interested in, not necessarily interested in what people think, but we said to Leah actually the other day, what do you think people think of us, or think of me? And I don't know if it's in 3 words, but she said, one of the things she said, that the crazy guy is always wearing shorts and sunglasses. He's always talking to everybody. So talkative is what she said, but she probably, in an adult sense, it would be somebody who's communicating often. I'm the guy in the playground who's interacting with parents and engaging constantly.
Yeah.
So I think she would say doer, or action orientated. Communicator, or networker, if she had that vocab. Networker. Fun guy. Shorts and sunglasses all the time, is it? Yeah, I mean, I'm in them now. I've got shorts on, and you just give me a ray of sun, and I'll have the shades on. Yeah, and there's between you and I and everybody that listens to this podcast, I sometimes wear shades so I can just get in and out, without necessarily making eye contact with everybody, because everybody always seems to want to have a chat. so sometimes I just have to put the blinkers on. And you're a victim of your own network and community success, aren't you? Indeed. Well, it seems so. But on the short side of thing, I'm a big believer, and a fellow northerner, we've experienced cold a lot longer than the southern counterpart has. I really believe in sort of playing with the cold, and going into the cold. So I'm a big ice bath guy, cold showers every day, only 2 minutes in the morning, just sort of frighten the life out of me. But I don't get ill, and I don't feel cold, and I'm walking out in a t-shirt and people think I'm crazy. I don't feel like it's biting through. I feel pretty hard to it, and I believe that it's because I embrace the cold. So that was 3 words or some thoughts for how your daughter would describe you. What about your wife? How would she describe you? Yeah. I think Busy. Maybe not always, sometimes busy full, but generally busy. I think doer would come up again. Doer as, I like to box things off. David Meltzer, who I met a couple of weeks ago for the first time, said 100% of the things you do get done. Yeah. I believe that as well. And as long as you're doing the right things, I like to get them done. Big sort of box ticker off. So what do you say? Doer? Busy. Yeah, a bit busy. It's 2, but maybe we could hyphenate it. Risk taker.
Yeah.
Maybe I can get away with that.
Yeah, no, of course you can. Of course you can. They're your words, aren't they? That's
I'll just make that up as a one word.
Yeah. So that's how other people would see you. How do you see yourself? What words would you use to describe yourself?
I think the action orientated, if I can just keep them as one word. Creative, I would say. I don't think people like you creating this show and doing what you're doing. It's quite a creative process. It's not just we'll just click a link and we're chatting here. There's a lot more to it, isn't there? And we're building more than just a podcast here. There's some legacy, and it's very creative, and you've got to strike the right. So I think I'd like to think of myself as creative. Yeah. And what I really think about a lot, and what I want to be, is inspiring. And a couple of people as well who've got teenage kids or young kids, I really want to share the teenage years with them about the real grit and resilience and single-minded focus, almost to a selfish point. You don't need to cheese people off to be selfish, but you can be very selfish and have it work for you in terms of achieving your goals. It doesn't have to be to the detriment of others.
Yeah, love that. Love that. Who inspires you, Matt?
Well, actually, Tess, my other half, is very inspiring. She's a primary school teacher, but I think behind that, I don't want to just label her as that. She's tough as nails. And I had a bit of a weird, I say weird, it was almost a health scare. It was a bit of a health scare this year. So I turned 40 in July, and about a month before I went to the dentist with Leah. She was on a day off and dragged us to the hygienist. And they found this mark on my tongue. It wasn't sort of something typically that would be there, a little white mark. It's not too gory, by the way. And they said, that shouldn't be there. But we can't do anything about it now. We need these things come and go. You might have just bitten your tongue, this is just a reaction to it. Yeah. Went back 2 weeks later, hadn't gone anywhere. They still wanted to see what it was all about. The short version is I had to have a biopsy, a good portion of my tongue cut off on the side. Fortunately, 99% of it's grown back. But this thing still reappears, and I had to send it off for a biopsy to test for, cancer and all this kind of stuff, all the nasty stuff. And I was in a real deep hole emotionally. Anywhere you look, it's bad news. You know what it's like. You Google anything, it's really bad. And I was in a right hole. And Tess was absolutely rock solid and almost unwavering in her feedback. She was like, how are you going to, what if it is bad, Matt? How are you going to cope? If you're breaking down now and you don't know what's going on, what if it really is something? How are you going to cope? So she challenges me in a way that strengthens my character. And, I don't want to sound like she's hard work or anything, but she does keep me on my toes.
Yeah.
And so does Leah as well. And they sort of, they keep me going. I've maybe even gone too far away from the question now that I've
No. So what I really like about your answer there as well is earlier in the conversation, you said
who inspires me. Sorry.
You said how important challenge was to you. Yes. And then you just said there in that the two people closest to you are two people that consistently challenge you.
Yeah.
Well. So no, I really like that. Really like that.
It's really interesting as well because they're probably challenging him in a way to be a better dad or be a better partner or but you know what it's like, as a dad. But I've stopped being so inspired. I used to be quite impressed with people when I was a teen. I'd look at, oh, wow, how impressive is that? And even early 20s, but wow, I want to be that. And over the years, I've just become less and less impressed with people. I really want to see. So I think one of the things that struck me early 20s was if they haven't done it or they aspire to do it, you don't listen to them. If they're providing sort of naysaying feedback, if they haven't been where you want to go or at least aspire to it, that opinion and that noise You need to create a filter to get that out of your mouth. So I've become less impressed. But there are people, you inspire me for cranking out hundreds of podcasts. JP, my sort of friend now, really, and I haven't paid him a penny, and he's given so much to my life. The foreword to the book. He invited me to speak in his mastermind last week. He's provided me with so much value. That really inspires me to level up my game no end. And there are people that I watch and I try and learn from and listen to. I do read a lot and watch a lot of things that are kind of non-fiction.
Yeah,
in order to be a better version.
You've just sparked another thought there. We recently did a tender for a piece of work, and in that tender, it said, what one thing do your most successful clients do from your least successful clients? And when I was thinking about the answer to that, what I put down, not in these exact words, but it's basically they do something when we're not in the room. They do something. So it's not about just like reading a book or attending a training course or having a coaching session. They take whatever it is, the thoughts, and those new thoughts have driven a new activity or a new action that follows. You have continually the words that you've just said from your wife and from your younger are about you're an action taker, you're a doer. What is it that if you're continually learning, what is it that's in you that if you're continually learning that then creates the action to go and do some stuff? You wrote a book in 30 days. Yeah, you've been a professional golfer. Yeah, what is it in you that does it?
I think I'm trying to answer the best way I can here as well. So I think the process of starting something gives me more energy and motivation to continue it and do it. So, and again, I'm nicking quotes, but it's stuff that sinks in and makes sense of what I think. And I want to make sure I get it right as well. Motivation gets you started. Good habits keep you going. So a lot of people have got a lot of great motivation. Yeah, I'm going to be 5 stone lighter next year and all this kind of stuff. But they don't even take the first step and get to the gym or sort their eating out and make a plan. But if they just took the time to formulate some good habits, then they will more likely be motivated by the achievement that they can see at the other side of it. And I don't want to sound all guru on the weight loss thing, but I think striving towards something bigger, like the golf was I couldn't even get there because of my age. When I wanted it, it was so far away because I couldn't be a golf pro at 13.
Yeah.
But I had this big, long lead up. So I was constantly adding on the skills and adding on. And I think you might want to say something there, just while you've got it, but just in case.
Yeah, I do. Around the difference between journey and destination. Because what has come across in this whole conversation so far is how much work, commitment you put into the journey. You've got clarity of the destination.
Yeah.
But you're coming across like you're somebody who enjoys the challenge of the journey to reach somewhere, rather than just fixating on the destination or the journey. And I think there's 2 different types of people in this world. One of them fixates on the destination, and one of them enjoys and throws themselves into the journey. And you're coming across as I'm going to use the word journeyman, but
journeyman.
Not in the but it's about the journey for you. Yeah. Is that fair, or have I just or not?
Yeah, I think so. I think you've got to enjoy the smaller timescales as well, and the smaller wins and the immediate stuff that you can impact right now as well, and not getting caught. Yeah, the dream is very alive, and it's very focused. And maybe that was very helpful in the golf days because there was only ever one objective, and it was just how do I get there by trying all these different things. And one thing as well, I think we maybe touched on earlier on, is surrounding ourselves with the right people. Yeah. And I've become obsessive about that in my older life as well. When I was younger, I'd started weeding these people out early on. And I guess the golf scene is a little bit different. It wasn't elitist when I was coming through, but I imagine a generation before, it was maybe tough to get into a golf club so much. But I was starting to see that serious people wanted to play golf, especially at my age. They weren't just dabbling. And I talk about it in the book about amateurs dabbling and professionals are all in. I'm not saying you have to be a professional status, but by what you're doing with your podcast and your business as well, it's professional. You know, you're making money for it, but you're intense and focused, and you're doing things to an extremely high standard, not just dabbling. And like the lower performing clients, not taking action.
Yes.
So yeah, really love the journey. Really love the doing.
No, and that comes across, especially because it was the words that you used that you thought other people would describe you as, and also your own word. And I think before you mentioned when we touched on the word inspiring, you mentioned about the teenage years.
Yeah.
How would you like to inspire people, and what is it from your own journey in those years that is the most inspiring for them?
I think so. Really fortunate. You know, my parents were together when I was, you know, I didn't come from a broken house or anything. You know, mum and dad were together. Dad worked extremely hard. He was a plumber, and he was 6 days a week, his own business, and he spent his Sunday either coming to the golf club or, you know, taking me to play football for the team and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, through the week, it was very much mum, you know, she worked as well. But actually what was missing, but was kind of welcome, was I wasn't ever pushed into golf. It was like, you do whatever you want, Matt. You know, and if that's what you want to do, that's wonderful. But also at the same time, it was a very solo act. You know, I got there because of my own efforts. And a lot of the time you got to think about, I think if I was talking to a younger group now of teenagers, you might think that somebody's going to come and save you and give you all the skills and all the support and all that. But actually probably 99% of it is you, and you really have to do the work. And without sounding cliche and spinning out all the stuff that kids might hear, you really have to take accountability and ownership of your own success in those early years, especially if it's sport, because everybody's out to do better than you, I would say. Golf may be one of the unique sports where you can't actually impact another person's performance. You know, rugby, I can slam straight into somebody and take them out. Football, I can tackle them. Hockey, all the games, you know, there's a way, but golf is a big mind game. You know, if you let the external forces of jealousy, envy, worry, doubt creep in, they're all external. So if I was speaking to a bunch of young golfers, I would say you have to become extremely good at being lonely. And sorry about that. You can probably hear that in the background. That's Amazon as well. Hopefully you'll leave it on the door without walking away. I think becoming incredibly good at working out your own problems.
Mindset you spoke about, and we could have a whole full conversation on mindset.
Yeah.
But I guess, what age did you realize how much your thoughts help or hinder you?
Yeah, I think it's probably a bit of mental maturity around 14, 15, 16. And actually getting really close to about 16 when it's turning into college. And you can see a lot of people just falling out of education or just not being interested, or actually getting to an age where they're just going down the wrong path. And I'm not here to tell anybody what they should and shouldn't do, but I could see at about that age, that person is not going to achieve much in that path, you know. And if you continue to hang around with those guys, I can tell you where you're going. And I started to see, okay, who, and I'll try and link this to mindset as well. It was realizing the distractions and getting myself in the headspace of, if I want to be really serious about this here, I am the only one who can make a dent in it. And even though I mentioned early on about the education piece, how I struggled a little bit, you know, it just like sport, my mum and dad didn't necessarily push me through, must revise, must do this. I don't know if that's just a northern thing, Lee, but they just kind of left me to get on with it because I was a good kid. I wasn't necessarily a rebel. I didn't have teachers phoning home saying Matthew hasn't done his homework. I always did it. You know, and I always tried my best, but I wasn't necessarily always the best. But I realized that in order to achieve my goals, one of the milestones was qualifying as a PGA golf pro. In order to do that, I needed to resit my maths. So I was doing A levels whilst resitting my maths GCSE as well. Unfortunately, I had a really good maths teacher, while I was doing my A levels to be able to pass my maths to get a C, which is all I could get.
Gotcha.
So I don't know. Did I answer that properly there?
No. Right? Well, I mean, yes, you did. I think there's everything that we spoke about. We could go a mile deep on everything, the importance of all of the things that you've spoken about. But and there's so many lessons that you've shared today that have got so much depth in them. If people wanted to explore more, and I guess you've written a book.
Yeah.
Who do you think the book is for, or who would get the most from the book that you've written?
I think what I found actually is the book's for more than just the audience that I thought it was. I thought it was just aimed at any individual, any adult really, who was thinking, I want to get an edge. I'd like to learn from somebody who's been a professional sports person and transitioned into business. So if anybody, that's a natural fit. If you're in sport and you're moving into business, or you've been in sport and you're starting to find a career outside of sport, it's absolutely it's a perfect fit. On the other hand as well, I've had parents of teenagers say, that was really fascinating, Matt. And actually, that's going to be really helpful getting them to the right frame of mind and setting up for success and surrounding themselves with the right people and setting up the right habits and systems in order to achieve what they want to achieve. But at the same time, it could hit many markets, could hit many people. I guess anybody wants to do something a bit different. And I didn't want it to be a typical personal development thing. I wanted it to be Matt Grady's story, and here's what you could do to do something different.
Love it. And you've touched on the future of Matt Grady's story as well. So maybe book number 2, when you hit the age of 50 and you're on that tour back again at 50. Maybe that's book number 2 of how you the full circle, or whenever that be.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I honestly, Matt, I just want to say thank you so much for your time today. It's been thoroughly enjoyable to understand more about you, what makes you tick, and some of the important decisions, choices that you've had to make to. In fact, final question. I've got 3 questions to go. Question number 1: do you see yourself as successful?
Not yet. So no, I would say, if I was speaking factually, I'd say no, because in my current career, I haven't achieved all I want to achieve.
Yeah.
So I'm a work in progress there.
Okay.
I think there are things that I do that may be perceived as successful, but I don't see it yet.
Yeah. And I think that answer is fascinating in itself, because you're fully admitting that you're on a journey. But if you'd looked at some of the highlights of your career, then maybe people do perceive those as successful. But you are a man about a journey, aren't you?
A journey man, yeah, indeed, yeah. Still lots of things to achieve, I think.
And question number 2, what are you having for your tea?
I've got some chicken tonight.
Yeah,
I got some chicken. I've been trying to.
When you say you've got some chicken tonight, do you mean the stuff in a jar?
Like chicken tonight. No. I've got some chicken breast, and I might put it in a wrap. I might put some barbecue sauce on it. I've got a 10K race next week as well, and I'm probably a few pounds heavier than I'd like to be for race pace. So I'm just cleaning out the evening meals, because I find, and this may be something, a sport thing as well, eating too much on an evening, I feel like garbage in the morning. I'm not as lively, even if it's good food. If I'm eating too late, it's just not been processed properly. Maybe it's a personal thing. So I'm trying to clean out the evening meals.
Yeah.
What about you, Lee? What's on your menu?
No, that's fascinating. So I was going to have a takeaway tonight until you've just said that. Well, no. So it's tricky. We're recording this on
it's Halloween, isn't it? Yeah.
So the kids will be going out trick-or-treating and getting a load of sweets and all of that stuff. Which will mean that we'll only get back into the house, and there's like a little party going on and stuff down the road. So there'll probably just be some form of takeaway type of activity happening.
Nice,
so I'll let you know exactly how I feel tomorrow morning, and whether eating too late is not good for me, because it's not something I've never measured. So I will do that. And I guess third and final question, Mr. Matt Grady, if people wanted to know more about you, where would they go? What would they do? What would they find?
Amazing. I think I'm trying to do a lot more across social media, but if they want to find Business Matt, he's on linkedin.co.uk/Matt Grady. Probably it's quite a simple one. So you'll find Matt Grady in executive search on LinkedIn as well. I have a couple of landing pages for the book as well. Make sure I send you a copy as well. Perfect. And you can share the free download with anybody who's interested as well. So you can buy it on Amazon, or just send them the freebie there as well. I didn't ever intend for it to be a Harry Potter.
Yeah.
But just a really great outlet and primer for book 2.
Yeah. No, love it. No, thank you for that. And I just want to say again, thank you for just honestly sharing your story. And giving us a glimpse more into journeyman Matt Grady. And yeah, so what does the rest of the week look like for you?
Well, we've got, back to work. So Doma search, executive search on a daily basis. So I'm looking at new clients and new candidate relationships on a daily basis. So finding business and winning business. We are packing. We've got the removals guys coming around on Friday afternoon, and we're due to relocate again, only 14 miles down the road this time, and move into our new house on Saturday. So I'm sure my evenings are going to be filled with Vodafone, BT, TV lights, all that mumbo jumbo.
Yeah. No,
but here's an I want to share something interesting. Well, I found it interesting. I only realized, Queen's Jubilee, was it Jubilee or something, whatever it was called in June this year? Was it June? Maybe May, June.
Yeah.
It was nice weather, wasn't it? And I went back to my old house. My mum and dad are still in the house that I grew up in, a bit northern. And it was funny to see all the parents who were kind of my age when I was a kid. It's funny to see them now, my mum and dad's age, with their kids and their kids with kids. And it was really interesting. But what I thought was really funny, I spoke to one of the dads and he said, "Oh, what have you been doing, Matty?" I said, "Oh, well, golf, yada, yada, overseas, isn't that?" It's like, "Isn't it funny?" He said, "Number 70, professional golfer," that was me. He said, "Number 68, professional rugby league player, Ryan Boyle, my next door neighbour, Ireland International, Cast Tigers, Salford Reds. I think he's played for Doncaster now, right? 2 doors down, Lindsay, gymnast, GB gymnast." It's weird, this little street, in Castleford, mining town, Glasshout Castleford in West Yorkshire, was producing sports people. But I used to remember we used to joke about it, that we used to think about a team, having a team in that street, and we're all, kicking 10 bells out of each other in the garden playing rugby. Yeah. And then Ryan went on to play for Cass. And
wow.
Funny, isn't it? How these little incubators.
No, it is. But it also, I think, shows that actually having that peer group that's challenging, and as I think one of the words that I would use to summarize this conversation is the importance of consistent challenge. And right from a young age, if you've all lived there together, you've been consistently challenging each other to be better. I spoke to somebody the other week, my boy's football coach, and he said that that one of his younger children, his eldest child, it will probably not be as successful as the younger children, because he didn't have as many people to challenge him. His younger siblings are now consistently being challenged by the better and elder sibling. So they've had that consistent level of challenge. So yes, I think in summary, I think challenge is key. Yeah. That's good. Absolutely. That's good. So Mr. Matt Grady, thank you so much for this conversation. Good luck with everything. And yeah, thank you. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Return leg. Yeah, yes. Absolutely.
Dead right. You look after yourself, and we'll speak again soon.
Thank you, Lee.